Hi and welcome. David, where are we going today in video 28?
An interesting journey. A free energy technology owned by a company which made dramatic claims for it, the apparent death of that technology, then its resurrection. But first of all, please stay tuned towards the end of this video for our plans of having you, our viewers, contribute your own personal experiences of witnessing or having knowledge about free energy technology and how that knowledge or that technology was suppressed.
So David, this sounds exciting. Where does video 28 begin?
Bjorn, at first remember, the reason we create these videos is an attempt to bring the reality of free energy technology into public awareness. We, the people, are vulnerable when our existence depends on access to fuel or electric power, either one of which can be stopped or cut off, either accidentally or intentionally by those who would try to control us. And it is not only free energy technology which is under attack. Even a company like Bloom Energy, which sells high temperature solid-state fuel cells to provide electric power independently from the grid, has faced an increasing level of being sidelined by the powers that be, even though their systems are totally dependent on access to some type of conventional fuel.
So even then, David, it looks like any level of increased individual freedom is a threat to these people who want to control we the people.
Yes, and the ultimate threat, of course, is what we call free energy. It is the zero-point energy existing in a vacuum. It is accessible anywhere in the universe and cannot be stopped or shut off. As we say, free energy is freedom. Back to our main journey today. It begins with a small technology company named Steorn in Dublin, Ireland, which developed digital security systems, among other things.
Digital security systems? So where is the free energy component in that?
Hold on, it is coming.
Okay.
The CEO of Steorn was Sean McCarthy, who had an engineering background. Steorn needed some sort of energy generation for remote ATMs, so they tested the concept of small generators powered by wind.
That still sounds very mundane to me.
Agreed, but just hold on a little longer.
Okay.
All right. The engineer developing the generator in the wind-powered system kept measuring more electrical power coming out compared to mechanical power going in. Sean McCarthy told him this was obviously impossible and to go back and recheck everything.
Now it starts to sound interesting here, David. We do know, of course, by now that people involved in science or engineering have been trained to believe that achieving overunity is absolutely not possible.
Exactly. So we don't know details of what Steorn did in the years up to 2006, but in August 2006 they placed a full-page ad in a British weekly newspaper, The Economist. Steorn claimed in this ad that they had discovered a source of energy not based on fuel, and they asked for a so-called jury of 12 scientists or engineers to examine the evidence to validate the free energy claim. That was, in hindsight, the worst thing they could have done. Students in high school or college are taught the so-called law of conservation of energy, which is misinformation. It is no more than a widely quoted false statement with no supporting evidence. Steorn was now on a collision course with those who want to keep controlling humanity. Instead, for Steorn, it would have been far wiser if they had reached a much higher degree of development of their discovery before going public with it. Now they were targeted.
Wow. They really did do the worst thing possible, David. It sounds to me like their pride took over, and with that, failure guaranteed, right? They were actually jumping right into that pride trap which Peter Lindemann has described. It is from the Bible, right? Pride goes before the fall.
Right. Indeed. We don't know much about what Steorn did after placing this ad until the end of 2009. But we do know that the selected jury of scientists and engineers agreed that they did not see evidence that the Steorn system was generating extra energy. Later, an exhibit of a working device, Steorn called it the Orbo, O-R-B-O, Orbo, in London, failed. McCarthy said this was due to the heat of spotlights shining on the device. Steorn gave another demonstration December 15th, 2009 in Dublin, Ireland. They used a rechargeable battery as an energy source and stated that the battery would power the Orbo device, but extra energy from the Orbo would keep the battery fully charged. The presence of a battery made many people doubt their claims.
Okay, so after Steorn challenged the world's accepted scientific principles back in 2006, then by late 2009, it seems like the only thing they really had achieved were 3 significant public failures. Game over for Steorn, game over for Orbo.
Steorn stayed around, supported by investors, until 2016. They even sold some high-priced consumer items, such as portable phone chargers, which did not function.
Which did not function? Unbelievable. Okay, so goodbye Steorn, goodbye Orbo. David, why are we even making this video?
It is true. Steorn is liquidated and gone. But Orbo is very much alive. It is in late 2009 that these true events took a strange turn. We could call it the Lazarus effect. At this time, Sean McCarthy did release some technical details of how the Orbo technology functioned.
How it functioned? So it's true, the Orbo technology worked, even though its public image was one of complete failure?
Well, as I mentioned, in late 2009 there was a dramatic turning around of these events. A Frenchman named J.L. Nowden entered the picture. Mr. Nowden replicated many claimed Overunity devices and then presented what he learned about them on his website. His work showed competence in electrical measurements as well as machinist skills to build what he built.
I would like to hire someone like that.
So would I. So what J.L. Nowden did at this time, using the information released by McCarthy, was he built his own version of the Orbo technology, and it worked well. Let's look at some pictures and video clips from Nowden's Orbo website.
Okay, David, so here is a quick look at his website, and then you wanted to show this particular picture of the Orbo. Please describe for our viewers more detail of what we are actually looking at here, David.
Certainly. With this top view, we see 4 pairs of neodymium magnets inside the rotor. The rotor is this black circle. And 4 toroidal electromagnets outside the rotor. So as the rotor turns, 4 times in each revolution, the neodymium magnet pairs pass by the exterior electromagnets, and the small electric pulse is sent through the 4 electromagnets to turn them off. That's to turn off that temporary magnetic field which formed inside them during the attraction from the neodymium magnets. This allows the rotor to make another quarter turn, where the process repeats. So it is happening in 4 places at once on each revolution. The attraction between the neodymium magnets and the cores of the exterior electromagnets is mechanical output power. Output power is greater than the power used to turn off the magnetism in those outer electromagnetic cores after the attraction phase. So the motor is Overunity and would keep running until something wore out.
Wow, I like what I hear, although I think I might have it need to have it spinning around in my head a few times until I totally get it. And then you have this with the 2 totally different types of magnets. So there's definitely a lot to this picture that's not totally obvious just from looking at it.
Exactly. And now it showed by a number of tests that he made that the mechanical output power comes only from those neodymium magnets being attracted to the cores of the exterior electromagnets. Let us have a look at Nowden starting the motor up. And he does that with his hand. And remember, if the demagnetization pulses were not applied, the neodymium magnets and exterior electromagnets would simply lock up and there wouldn't be any rotation. It would stop.
Okay, and now in the video he had to start it with his hands, but then it runs.
We allow that.
Yeah. Okay, good.
So Nowden's version of the Orbo is real, and it works, and he demonstrated it and explained it in detail.
Wow, and wow. David, I just might try to find a machinist to build me one of these things. I'm sure if he had the right magnets, he could probably build an Orbo device in a day.
I agree. But I want to make a comment here on the Steorn company. What may have happened? As you and our viewers know, free energy technology is highly suppressed at this time. In our video 25, we heard Stanley Meyer say he was offered $1 billion with a B, dollars, to stop working on his water splitting technology. $1 billion is equivalent to so-called pocket change for the large fuel or energy companies. Meyer did not accept that offer and later died after he was apparently poisoned. So here is some speculation. I have no direct proof for any of this. When Sean McCarthy told the world that Steorn had invented a working free energy device, I speculate that someone secretly made McCarthy an offer he could not refuse, and he accepted. Then he made sure the Orbo technology appeared to be a failure.
Okay, David, yes. Or on an even more sinister possibility, but also very plausible, is that maybe McCarthy was told that the Orbo must die in order that he and his family would live?
Unfortunately, Bjorn, that is a very real possibility. The fuel and energy companies and their controller behind the scenes, the Bank of International Settlements, have contributed greatly to the building of our civilization, such as it is, but they will do and have done anything to stop the emergence of free energy. We have seen that recent articles about the Steorn company describe only their failures, not the initial successes Steorn had. The real information about what happened is increasingly hard to find. In order to suppress infinite energy, it certainly appears that someone is rewriting history. And this only comes in addition to the already well-known mysterious deaths of many free energy inventors.
Wow, they really do not want us to have access to free energy, do they?
No, they do not. Remember, free energy or infinite energy is energy which can be tapped anywhere without anyone receiving payment for it. I suggest you see our videos 7 and 24, which present the calculation of the density of zero-point energy anywhere in the universe.
I remember that well. It is enormous, and in order to illustrate the amount of joules of zero-point energy in 1 cubic centimeter, you wrote the number 1 followed by 108 zeros on a long strip of paper. And that was helpful because numbers like that, they're not easily comprehended. It's hard to imagine them.
Right.
So you think we're getting close to a good place to wrap video 28 with that information?
Almost.
Almost.
I do want to add that Nowden added improvements beyond what Steorn had done to the Orbo technology, one of which is to wind the outer electromagnet coils upon cores of, it's a trade name, a material called nanoperm, which contains nanometer-sized crystals and has better magnetic properties for that application than the better-known ferromagnetic materials. This reminds me of the magnetic material used by our good old friend Lieutenant Colonel Tom Bearden in his motionless electric generator, also replicated successfully by Nowden. And Nowden does reference Tom Bearden on his Steorn web page.
Yes, and we should talk more about Tom Bearden in a future video.
Yes, Bjorn, and we will. But right now, I think we have reached a good point to launch our new idea of letting our viewers contribute more closely to the free energy or infinite energy discussion.
That's right, you mentioned that in the very beginning.
Yes, and this brings us back to our video 25, which was on the water splitting technology invented by Stan Meyer. This was partly brought to our awareness by a Joe Rogan podcast. In fact, let us just take a quick look at a clip from it now.
Do you remember there was a video that was circulating many years ago about a guy who created a car to run on air? No, excuse me, water. He created a car that runs on water. And then this car that ran on water, I mean, he apparently had a viable engine and it was really working. And then he had a heart attack. And as he was dying, he was saying, "They killed me. They killed me." And then he died. And then nobody heard from the water engine again. But
he's from Columbus.
He's from Columbus too?
Grove City, yeah.
See, that happens, and I don't even like the term conspiracy theory because I think that's something created by the machine to negate things that are disruptive and innovative, so we can put them in a little box and call it a conspiracy theory or whatever, and therefore it never happened.
Well, anyone who doesn't believe in conspiracy theories, I say, look at Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah.
It's real clear. Meyer said that his invention could do what physicists say is impossible, turn water into hydrogen fuel efficiently enough to drive his dune buggy cross-country on 20 gallons straight from the tap.
Wow.
He took a sip of cranberry juice. Then he grabbed his neck, bolted out the door, dropped to his knees, and vomited violently. I ran outside and asked him what's wrong. His brother Stephen Meyer recalled. He said, "They poisoned me." That was his dying declaration.
When we look back at this recently, I was amazed to see that even though there are more than 9,000 comments under Rogan's video, it was surprisingly easy to find a couple dozen comments from people who were aware of water splitting technology, including some comments by friends or relatives of the inventors who were happy when people they knew didn't work on it or publish it, so those experimenters would not be killed.
Yes, David. It's amazing how much to the surface these comments were. Let's just see here. Here's one saying, "My family knew the water dune buggy guy. My wife's grandfather helped him do presentations. She herself took a ride in it. That actually was a real thing." And another one here saying, "There was an old bloke here in New Zealand who in the 70s invented a car motor that ran on water. It was well documented and in local papers."
Yes, and here someone even says, "My wife worked for an elderly couple in Miami. Seriously, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. When she was helping them, she asked, 'What are these blueprints?' Mrs. Smith said, 'A motor that runs on water.' She added, 'What happened?' Mrs. Smith cuts in and replies, 'Mr. Smith valued his life, and I am grateful he is still with me.'"
Wow.
And with this, I want to bring back another little glimpse from video 25, two brief comments from renowned scientist Paul Cease.
If Stan Meyer's device works like he advertises, you would make energy available universally almost free. That is a major, major, major impact. Every piston engine, every gas turbine in the world today, if it had its converter, could run on it. With a little invention, we could get standalone devices to run all over the world. I think it would be what I would be concerned about is the people that sell energy would be essentially bankrupted. It's what happened to the Conestoga wagons when trains came, or to the Pony Express when the telegraph came in. They're going to wipe out an entrenched power base, and they may not go easily.
Good to hear from him again, David. And with all this in mind, you know, if knowledge of free energy and knowledge like this really is this close to the surface with so many people,
we want them to share it with us so we can share it with the world. So, if you watching have your own experiences or have otherwise have first-hand knowledge of free energy technology or inventions that have been suppressed, please contact us by email. See the address in the description. It is submitenergyvideos@gmail.com. And we would love for you to record yourself on video speaking about it, and we could feature it in one of our future videos.
that's a great idea. And maybe at some point, David, we could even put up some of them on a dedicated sister channel. Let us put a couple of links in the section below. The email address, so it was submitenergyvideo@gmail.com. Let us see if we can find a simple tutorial for those who might not be too familiar with recording themselves on video on their computers to make that easy. And if we get in touch, we can try to help with that. And then we'll do a link to WeTransfer, which is one of several services that allow you to transfer larger files via the internet.
We will do that. And yes, if you have anything you want to share with us, please do so and send it to us. And I want to add if you want to share something anonymously, it is okay. If you don't want to show your face or make your name public.
Good point. Anything else?
I really hope that we will hear some great stories from our viewers with this. So with that, I just want to say thank you for watching and see you next video.